Hi, good day, everybody. This is Coach Anton. I'm back here from our channel, Coach Anton, and obviously being Coach Anton Pty Limited's head coach. I'm just quickly going to run through a few key things with you guys regarding sports mental coaching. Obviously, part of the series that we are currently busy. You're obviously tuning into this, expecting to hear about our topic we're covering today. And therefore, I'll be going straight into that for you guys. Right. So, firstly, sports mental coaching in professional sports is what our series is called. And this is a deeper look into how to use and benefit from, not just apply sports mental coaching. You might have already looked at our previous video, which obviously covered part of our next topics as well. These are the topics covered over this time period and broken down into lots of bits and pieces. Sports mental coaching for individual player management, which I'm covering in more depth today. And also sports mental coaching for team management, sports mental coaching and youth development, sports mental coaching for the technical team, that's like coaching the coach, and obviously the vicious cycle of frustration and how to solve it. Now, if you're interested in any of these other topics, please make sure that you do subscribe to our channel and you'll be able to get more detail on them and obviously into the broken down videos as well on the topics. All right, so make sure you tune in for that. Right, so next one, going straight into today's topic for us now. And if you are liking any of this you are watching, please do make sure that you press the like button at the bottom as well for us. And obviously, as I said, subscribe to the channel. Now, when you think of an individual player, this is quite an interesting one. Now, obviously, yeah, I'm going to explain it from a perspective of managing the individual player, but obviously benefits every individual player who listens to this as well, because these aspects are directly applicable to them. And I'm going to go into these. Firstly, let's think of coping skill building, all right? So what is coping skills and why is it so important? And what do they need to cope about? Obviously, there's a lot of pressures out there as a player. And sometimes it is purely understanding the actual parent involvement in this and or other social involvements in this or upbringing involvements in this. There's so many skills and scenarios that one can face off the field that you need the skills for. And that is very important to build all these different skills as you go along in it as well. Now, as mentioned in the previous video as well, I'm going to give a few examples here. Now, one of them can be, say, for example, you get to a stadium and there's a massive crowd. Now, you as a player have never faced that. So you're not quite used to the big crowd. Now, when you go into that scenario, you're like, obviously wondering, how exactly do I cope with this? You can hardly hear your teammates next to you. You can't communicate properly. And on top of that, there's pressures. And there's pressures because you have a great opportunity. There's pressures because maybe it's also a good opportunity to mess up. Okay. And at the same time, there's other pressures that the coach and the expectations and the supporters' expectations and the club expectations, and obviously that involves everyone in the club for the team and everyone in there. There's lots of expectations on you right now as you walk onto that field, and the world is watching you, more likely than not. All right. So if you basically look at that specific scenario and you start asking yourself, listen, what do I need here? Well, there's a lot of skills that we teach people in this regard, but one of them would definitely be to be able to focus back on the actual game and zoom back onto the game. And I'll elaborate more on that on one of our next topics when we speak about the zone. Let's go into individual visualization. So individual visualization, what are we speaking about here? What is this all about? In the case of individual visualization, you should basically be able to visualize your set pieces before every single set piece and perhaps even practice that prior to the game or in your spaces that you've got, just like you do with any other training session. You literally need to practice the skill. It is a skill that you use directly in the game as well, having the visualization happening during the game, but obviously practicing doing it prior to the game as well. Now, how do you practice this prior to the game? You can even practice this off the field or on the training field. All right. So on the training field, you'll basically be taking your set piece and practicing a visualization cycle. What is this? This is actually seeing yourself do the actual kick successfully in the way you're intending to do it. However, how do you do this off the field then? Well, off the field, we take it a step further. And we basically say, you're going to visualize the actual visualization process and the routine prior and after that on your way to taking your set piece or free kick, whichever routine you might have prior or after your visualization. Different things works for different players. So it's important that you try it out and see which one works best for you. You should have some kind of routine that you religiously follow prior to a set piece. And that's very important as well to consider. That obviously increase your success ratio on your free kicks and set pieces. Many examples of that out there, and especially in rugby, you see a lot of free kick takers that penalty kick takers that does that very well. And then obviously in your soccer environment, there's examples like Ronaldo, which is very famous for his very specific routine, to the point that people joke about his routine. Of course, it can be funny if you don't understand the principles behind it. All right, then you've got social, cultural, and environmental influence. Now, this is very important, linking again to a bit of your coping skills, but more specifically here, you've got to understand, you've got a lot of impacts on you from outside the field and from other aspects than just the sport itself and the team itself or the club itself. You basically have social influences that has also led to a lot of habits in you, and it's also led to a lot of things that you say, this is how the world is, and this is how it's got to be done, and this is what's expected of you. Those are all pressures, right? Or habits and opinions and perspectives that are being built by those. The same with culture. And again, their own expectations and opinions and perspectives built on various different aspects. And then environmental influence. And this is important to understand, again, referring back to the stadium I mentioned earlier, and or you are in an environment where it's more hostile. I mean, if you go to some stadiums in African Champions League, for example, I use a classical environment, it gets very hostile in some of them because the supporters really want their team to win, and they get quite intimidating on the sides. Not to go into too much detail, but you can definitely go study that up for yourself. Are you able to cope with that? Again, referring back to the coping skill earlier. And if you are managing this individual player, are you able to prepare him for what he is about to face? Different cultures, different social environments, and also his actual environment he's going to have. Are you able to prepare him for that? Are you preparing yourself for that so that you are able to have enough knowledge to pass over to the player that you're managing? And if you are that player and you're changing environments and getting to different social and cultural spheres, I suggest that you also study that out so you make sure that you know what to prepare yourself for and what to expect. Culture is different, very, very, very broadly so in many cases, especially if you look on different continents, like your Western culture and then your African culture. There is massive differences between them, and you need to prepare yourself accordingly. Right. I'm going to go into the next one here for us now, and then it's overcoming mental blocks. When you basically look at mental blocks, what can cause mental blocks? There's so many things that can cause it, right? And basically it can be caused by the pressures of any of the above I've already mentioned, and or suddenly a big stadium that's there. It can be caused by parents that's watching and you being under pressure because you want to not disappoint your parent as a player maybe, and or girlfriend or whoever, wife or whoever it is that's coming to watch. And that can cause mental blocks as for some players. Others are simply encouraged by that and perform better. And that's great. That's where you want to get. But if you do get those blocks, what do you do with them? It could be the coach. It could be instructions shouted by the coach that triggers mental blocks because of your experience due to cultural or social differences between the two of you. And remember, not all friction is caused because the one just don't like the other. Sometimes because of perception due to cultural differences. So also keep that in mind. You need to know those things when you look at mental blocks. But how do I overcome this? So we use what we call a keyword. And this is also used. Another common mental block out there is when you start ball watching or watching the game instead of playing the game, especially in the case of goalkeepers or sometimes even defenders who are in a defensive position and the game is in attack, or attackers who, whilst the game is in defensive mode, end up watching a game instead of positioning himself accordingly, sticking to the tactical plan. Right, so how do you overcome these mental blocks? When you look at mental blocks, you need to basically have like a key word. This is one of the methods I'm going to discuss today. And when you use a keyword, you basically literally have a word that has a meaning attached. Maybe I lose my concentration in this mental block. I get out of the game, right? So I need to have a keyword to keep myself focused back on the game. So maybe I dwell off during the game. I might have something like, switch on, or Anton, switch on. It's good to include your own name in it. All right, you are talking to yourself and you need to say this loud. It should not be done soft. Yes, you might think like, well, man, people can think I'm crazy. Well, you choose. They think you're crazy and you perform well due to it. Are they still going to think that? That's another question. And or you get blocked out, concede a silly goal, and you become the highlight in the next newspaper. That's literally your choice, and I'm putting it harshly so, but yes, that is what you've got to choose. If your perspective is that they'll think you're crazy, then maybe you need to change your own perspective and understand that this is a tool that helps you stand out and shine out there, overcoming mental blocks, which might be a downfall of yourself. What if it's caused by something else? Maybe I've got my parents in the stand. I need to learn how to use a keyword to focus back on a game, or a keyword to understand I need to concentrate intensely on a game and forget about what's around me. Those are very, very important aspects to also consider. Keywords is something that I use personally a lot on my players, and or as a player used to use as well. All right. Injury rehab. Now, this is important. Again, injuries can cause mental blocks. Take note of that as well. So when you look at injuries out there, you could very easily get stuck every time you're back in a game after injury when you are about to take a kick in a similar scenario to in which you maybe were tackled and got injured. Imagine facing that visual, the pain, the traumatic experience of the long delay, or staying away from the game for so long in your rehabilitation process. All of that is stuck in your mind. If you did not get mental rehabilitation about this, you're going to face problems. So it's important that we do that. And for that, we go in deeper depth about the game, and we use aspects such as visualization to overcome this, and various other different skills that I've already mentioned. Mental blocks of keywords sometimes need to be used for this as well. So go through that. That is very important if you look at it. Right, and then support structure. What kind of a support structure do you as a player have? And if you go through a difficult time and are not able to think of solutions, do you have a support structure? I always tell players that you need to create a support structure. And if you're a player manager, I always say that you need to be aware of your player's support structure and maybe help guide him towards a good support structure if he doesn't have one. That's very important to consider. That can include maybe a wife that's very supportive, or a parent that's very supportive, or a husband that's very supportive, or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever the case might be. I'm just using various different examples. Whatever your support structure is, think about it and get it in place. For me as a player, my parents was definitely a great support structure, and I always looked forward to any match where they come to watch, and tended to perform very well in matches they were there at. Over and above that, though, I knew that off the field, when I'm facing difficult times, I had a lot of close friends who were there for me, and that I could speak to about just about anything. And I think that's important, that you have got that type of support structure where you've got people are not going to take what you say and then go gossip about it, but you can be open and vulnerable towards and actually speak about what you're going through as well, so that they can be there to help you, or they simply come through to back you and believe in you and come to matches to to basically urge you on in that game and support you and watch you perform. And that is really great for me as well. I've seen cases of support structure, just before we move on that. Right. So I've seen cases of support structure where basically there's parents coming to every single game of the child and even every single training. Imagine that. That is quite important to think of. Right. Character development. Now, in the case of character development, I do believe that it is not just the responsibility of those who have influence on you to develop your character. And it's not coincidental that your character get developed. Sometimes you see a character that you admire and that you wish you had that character skills. And you can actually develop them. But you need to study them out. You literally, as I said, you need to study them out. And then take it into your training and go and practice them. So first be aware of them. Like, trying to think of how does this character skill come about? Like, what leads to that? Maybe it's a different perspective to life, right? What about staying calm in a game and you get upset very easily, right? Being triggered very easily by different aspects. Well, those often can be linked all the way back to social and cultural or environmental influence during your development phases. Now, you've got to go back and think about it and pick up what is the difference, and then start studying the actual mentality that goes with it, because that's what's important about it. So if I start learning the perspective or the mentality or the opinions of that player that has that skill that I want, in the case of characteristics and the character skills, I basically want, because that's a skill after all, I want to go and check that I know that full aspects of what leads to that, all right? And start learning how to get that into my own mindset and thinking. Start working on that. Literally remind myself of it. Talk to myself about these things, and get myself also some help if you need professional help due to actual something that might have happened to you that led to you getting angry easily, and those type of things as well. So you need to get help out there, and professional help often is the way forward. But I advise that you first try to do a lot of this homework yourself. There's a lot of information available on the web. Use it. All right, then leadership skills. There's different aspects of leadership that one obviously look at, but leadership skills are extremely important when it comes to sports. I always tell my players when I'm coaching that, and those that I work with in sports mental coaching, you've got to think of it like this. What will make the team not want to drop you when you lose form? Now, if you are not Ronaldo, that's getting paid almost half of the team's budget, okay, then the team have no financial pressure to field you. If you are not having a name that Messi or Ronaldo or someone else out there have, then there's not even a crowd that's putting the pressures for you to be on that field. So what is going to make sure that you're on that field when you lose form? So you've got to think about these things. And one of those things that I always refer to is leadership skills. If you are a leader out and out in all aspects, and Henderson is a good example of that in the EPL, and you want to think of leadership skills, like if I've got these aspects and I'm basically influencing players around me to get us to get a win out of the game, to not give up in a tough scenario, your coach, I can promise you now, will not want to leave you out of the team. If you do not make it into the starting lineup, he'll want to have you at least on the bench, because he never knows when he goes suddenly 2-0 down and the team starts giving up, what he's going to need to do. And in that scenario, he might turn to you and put you on the field, because he actually needs you who's not giving up to go on there and get the team back into the game. So the never say die attitude is a typical attitude to have as well out there. And extreme positivity is also a very important aspect. All right, those are leadership skills you definitely want. And then being able to rub that off onto your teammates, encouraging your teammates and or urging them on in a positive way for them to go and perform and increase their performance in the game. If you've got any of that type of influence on the game, I promise you now, and trust me on this, your coach will want to field you or at least have you on the bench. Goal setting. All right, I have seen goal setting being done with expectations that are way too much out there. We players think that I want to achieve professional in the next 3 years, and they've not even played amateur club level yet. Now, I don't mean to be harsh, but I see this coming a lot from high school boys as they're approaching matric or finishing high school. And they're thinking they're going to play professional, but they're not even experienced in playing amateur. And I think this is important that a player understands the difference and they get themselves out there into competitive leagues and competitive club action on a regular basis if they want to make it professional. Set your goal setting in such a way that you know what it is you want to ultimately achieve. There's nothing wrong with saying, I would love to play for Chelsea one day, or at least a similar club. And then bring yourself that challenge up front, and that's your ultimate goal you want to achieve as a player, maybe. And then you go out there and you break it down to step-for-step breakdown with short, medium, and long-term goals, and note goals on each of them that you need to achieve in order to achieve your ultimate goal that you want. Which will be part of your long-term goals. And I think that's very important because these things motivate you or demotivate you when you achieve or not achieve them as you work towards your ultimate goal. So please make sure that you break it down to realistic goals that you can achieve so that you will achieve them and stay encouraged as well. Then the zone. As I promised earlier, as a coping skill, there's also the zone. Going into the zone can be an escape from external environments, such as the crowd or maybe a person that influenced you negatively in that specific game. Maybe because they make you lose concentration, or they simply make you panic, or if you just feel extra pressures unnecessarily. If you're able to go into the zone, that is a massive benefit. But besides that, the zone allows you to achieve so much more than you normally would achieve. And any player out there obviously wants to perform at your best. So getting into the zone is a very important skill. So what is it? It is being able to block out literally everything else and being so focused on an individual aspect that you are busy working or doing, an individual thing that you are busy doing, that you almost hear nothing or take in nothing else from outside and have normally a very increased performance whilst you're in the zone. Make no mistake, this can also happen negatively, which is more of a mental block that we referred to earlier. But a very similar thing, this can happen negatively. We can get consumed into things because of previous negative experiences. You get caught in a negative zone and your game goes down. So you also need to, at that stage, be able to cope with that scenario. As soon as you start finding yourself going into a negative zone, kick out of it by using a keyword, for example, to snap out of it. And then positively, obviously, how do you get into it? It's by applying all the other skills I mentioned earlier, visualizing prior to the game, so that you are prepared for the game as you come into it. And as you come into the game, focusing on every single aspect, really understanding the tactical approach of the day and the opposition as well, so that you can go out there to really get the best out of your game and focus totally on every next move, as I always explain it, your next move and the potential future moves you can do after that. Lastly, body language. Right, so in the case of body language, it's very important to understand everything you do communicates something to people out there. And your body language is silent, but it's the only one that remains there because soccer is visual. Remember, verbal communication can be blocked out because of a loud stadium, but your body language cannot be blocked out. It stays there. So you need to make sure that you apply a positive body language to influence your team positively and yourself, and or not give away when you're actually feeling nervous, anxious, or even panicking. Right, so you got to learn how to control your body language so you don't reflect those through your body language. Let's give an example of a negative body language. You concede a goal, you made a mistake, either or, and after that, your shoulders drop, especially if maybe negative comment was made by a teammate or even an opponent. Or another body language, I visibly get rather irritable if somebody maybe starts saying negative stuff towards me, around me, maybe the opponent. And I can actually start showing it to my body language. And that becomes very, very, very easy. We almost like, you literally look edgy on that field, like you can snap at any moment. Trust me, there's opponents who will use this on purpose to get you to maybe get a booking and get off the field if they don't want you there. So please don't let us get to you. You've got to protect yourself and stay positive. Keep your head up, positive at all times, and urge those around you. Use a lot of your arms and everything as visuals, visual displays that basically can be used beneficially so for all your teammates to be urged on and encouraged, and that encourage you in the process as well, and keep your performance and your focus there. Guys, I can obviously go and break this down even further, and I will do this in weeks to come. But as it is right now, if you've got any questions on this, please drop them in the comments below, and make sure that you let us know. Oh, this one I've missed though is self-talk, but I did cover it quite a lot in the last one as well. But it's a case of self-talk. There's positive self-talk, negative self-talk. Make sure that you have positive self-talk where you speak to yourself positively, comment yourself positively. And obviously, if you want to know more about this topic specifically, please look out for it coming out in one of the next few weeks. As you basically look at any of these and you've got more questions, look at the comments below. If anybody already asked any similar questions, check what I respond, because I will be looking out to respond to every comment that comes my way. And if I don't respond to it, it might be because there was a similar comment before. I will definitely read it. Be sure of that. If you want to use our professional services, make sure you get in touch with us at any of our contact details, and contact us directly, mentioning that you want to utilize our sports mental coaching, and I will get back to you to make sure that we set up a customized solution for you as well. All right, that's it from me, and thank you for watching. And please remember, sharing is caring. Share this with your friends and anybody else out there. It will help us to get this message spread along the way as well. Thank you so much for everything being here, guys. I'm really appreciating everyone that is basically following us and subscribing to us, and the time you've got with us out here as well. Right, that's it from my side. Have a great day.